All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are. And thank you to World Data Congress for this opportunity. Let me share my screen. All right. Can I start? Sure.
Yes, you can start the presentation.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I'm application engineer, have a contract position with Chevron. And today I'm going to speak on evolution, impact, and future of artificial intelligence. So I thought, what is artificial intelligence? What better way than to ask AI itself? So I prompted ChatGPT. Probably most of you have already used that system. What is artificial intelligence? How is it different from natural intelligence? And write in 50 words or less. And it responded, artificial intelligence is a branch of computer science focused on developing intelligent systems that can perform tasks requiring human-like intelligence. So it is human-like, but not human intelligence. It differs from natural intelligence because AI uses algorithms and data, but it lacks and the depth of understanding, the intuition, the consciousness, emotions, which are found in humans. Let's look at the history. So field of AI roughly started around 1940s. There were some early systems, some very basic systems, which tried to mimic how humans would make a decision. They included some rule-based systems, some early chatbots like Eliza. Then came in 1980s machine learning systems, and they were more, they used machine learning models, for example, random forest decision tree models. And then about 2010, deep learning, it really took off. And what caused deep learning to take off was more data and more compute, because those are two things these systems really need. History of deep learning. So 1943, neural networks were invented, or early neural networks. About 1970 to 86, back propagation, which is really important. On the right side, you can see the architecture of neural network. It has various layers of neurons combined together. So you do forward pass and backward pass and repeat that process over and over, multiple passes and maybe over batches. And that's how the computer learns, or the model learns, the complex representations. So about 1980 to 1990s, CNNs, LSTMs, bidirectional recurrent neural networks, those were invented. Deep learning really kind of took off in 2006. ImageNet, AlexNet, 2009 to 2012. 2014, GANs. And then 2017, we saw transformers. And to give it or keep it on perspective, deep learning is, or AI, field of AI is roughly 70 to 80 years old. And if you compare to civilization, which is 12,000 years old, Earth was created like 4 billion years, more than 4 billion years ago. So it is very short amount of time, but the progress we have made is really stunning. And on the left, you see the paper which started the current wave of AI, which is attention is all you need. Before that, say in image or in computer vision, CNNs were kind of the big thing. In language, RNNs were the big thing. But then when attention came, everything started moving towards attention. And on the right, you see a proliferation of large language models based on this paper, or certain variations of this architecture, which is transformer architecture, encoder and decoder. And on the right side, you can also see as these models came out, They generally included more parameters. They were trained on larger data sets, modeled from whether it's from OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, Hugging Face. You can name the big tech. And then there are also open source model, for example, from Hugging Face or from Stability AI. And this particular way we are collectively calling Gen AI or generative AI. And why is that? So on the left, you can see earlier, most ML models, they were predictive in nature. You feed them data, say you're feeding them images, and it can classify, say, cat versus dog. It can detect objects, so object detection, segmentation. It can predict the fraud versus not fraud, spam versus not spam. So those kind of use cases. But with generative AI, now we're moving more towards creation or generation. It can generate text, it can generate code, generate images, now even videos. So on the right, you can see the architecture has changed a bit. You can train the models on text, images, speech, structured data, 3D signals. There's a foundational model, which we talked earlier, and then it can do wide variety of tasks. Earlier different models had to be trained for different tasks, but foundational models, one model can work well across different use cases. Of course, sometimes you need fine tuning. So the diagram we saw earlier, I have modified a bit. 2010, as we're calling era of deep learning, then I think 2020 onwards is the era of generative AI. And multi-model foundational models, because now your input is multi-model. Your input is text, your input is image, video, code, and so is your output. You might have experimented with DALL-E, Midjourney. So this slide shows models can now generate very high fidelity images. And this stuff is even getting better and better with each, I will not even say year, with each month, in fact, now. Large language models, we know they are probabilistic. So they generate probability of the next word. But what do they actually learn? So let's say first example is grammar. In my free time, I like to do what? So what is the highest probability of the next word, or which word has the highest probability, whether it's run or banana? So they can learn grammar. They can learn semantics. For example, I went to zoo to see giraffe, lions, and what? Should it be zebras or spoons? So they know it should be zebra. Word knowledge, the capital of Denmark is dash, it should be Copenhagen. Sentiment analysis, harder sentiment analysis, translation, spatial reasoning, math questions. So large language models, by using probability, they generate the next word or next token that we say. But then if we look at what they learn, they're learning all these different categories of tasks. Use cases of AI, we already spoke. Now it is multimodal, image to text, text to video, text to image. You give one prompt, whether it's DALL-E or it's ChatGPT, you are actually writing or giving a prompt using a text, and it's generating, depending on the model and the use case, it's generating either text or image or video. The other use cases, for example, visual question answering, document question answering. There are tools you can upload your own PDF, or you can give it a URL of a website, and then you can talk to that tool. Basically, it's fine-tuned on that particular document, or can answer questions about that. Graph machine learning, so LLM plus graph, that's picking off now. In computer vision, depth estimation, image classification, and these are use cases across AI and Gen AI both. Object detection, image segmentation. There was a recent model from Facebook, segment anything, image to image. You can give it one image and ask it to generate similar images, or maybe in that style, which we call style transfer. Unconditional image generation, video classification, zero shot image classification. So zero shot and few shot, basically giving very few examples to the model to achieve what you want to achieve. Text in NLP, text classification, text token classification, question answering, translation. You can translate from one language to many languages seamlessly now. Summarization, you can give it a PDF, you can give it a scientific paper, you can give it a website article, and it will summarize it for you. Text generation, you can ask ChatGPT or any such system to write stories for you, write poems for you. Audio, text to speech, audio to audio. There are even tools out there which you can use. You can train them on your own voice to clone your voice, although not perfect, but they are getting or moving in that direction. So overall, benchmarks are indicating that models are improving. They are improving across, I would say, benchmarks. On the right, you have OpenAI, GPT 3.5 and 4, and GPT-4, what they have said, it can pass a lot of exams. But please note, models still make a lot of mistakes, and we'll talk about those later. So investment in AI, with all the hype that's coming in, there's a lot of investment going into generative AI. On the left, I mean, as you know, Microsoft invested 10 billion in OpenAI. There are a lot of other startups VCs are investing in. Even big tech is investing in. On the right, we see many top tier investors. They are building their portfolio. And there are so many startups coming each week now in different modalities. So as a result, the landscape of generative AI and AI in general is evolving. This is from Sequoia Capital. On the bottom, you see a model layer where you have models for text, code, images, different models. For example, OpenAI, GPT-3. You have models from Anthropic, Stable Diffusion for images. And then top layer is application layer, where you have use cases or applications in text, code, for example, GitHub Copilot, images for image generation, media advertising, design, speech for voice synthesis, video generation, 3D model scenes, and other gaming, music, audio. In text, it is journal writing, copywriting for sales, marketing content. So a lot of organizations are using, or startups, I would say, are using these. And as you know, there's a lot of hype about this as well. Some stuff works, some is getting better. AI adoption in enterprise. This is from McKinsey, 2022 report, apologize. We see most commonly adopted AI use cases within each business function. So service operations, of course, service operations optimization in product or service deployment, development, creation of new AI-based product, enhancement of those products in manufacturing, predictive maintenance, risk modeling analytics, fraud detection, fraud analytics, and then marketing and sales, customer segmentation, customer analytics. But even after this, on the right, it says, although from 2017 standard, global AI adoption in enterprises is higher twice, but it has leveled off in recent years. Say 2022 was less than 2021. Would be really interesting to see with the recent hype in generative AI. Will be interesting to see how when this report comes out next year, whether it takes higher or not. AI and generative AI, they're not free from issues, challenges, risks. There are a lot of those bias. So I just entered on the first visual, you can see I entered as a keyword CEO in Delhi, and then these four images came out. As you noticed, there's a gender bias here. There are ethical issues. So what images were used to train stable diffusion or any other such model, and then whether owner's permission was asked. So there are a lot of issues there. And then there was an article at the bottom left, you can see we all contribute to AI, should we get paid for that? So a lot of ethical issues, who owns those images on which the models were created, and whether the owners were, whether the permission was asked or not. And then also on the output of the model, who owns, whether it's text, images, videos, who owns that IP or that copyright. And a lot of this needs to be solved. There's dialogues are happening, a lot more are required, regulation is required, so a lot of those things. On the right, hallucination or factual inaccuracy. OpenAI itself says that it may occasionally generate incorrect information. There's articles from Atlantic, I'm not sure how truthful, but it says ChatGPT is dumber than you think. Different authors and different people have their different opinion. Some are saying they see spark of sentience in ChatGPT, a spark, so starting, but some says it is just a model based on probabilities. Data, but this is for sure that hallucination occurs. They are factual inaccuracies. So when you use these models, please validate the output. Data privacy. So Italy earlier banned ChatGPT over privacy issues, but later they restored, or the access was restored when OpenAI addressed or clarified those issues. A lot of other issues, for example, safety, alignment, whether model aligns with human intent, explainability, harmful content, misinformation, fairness, security. So a lot of issues, challenges, and risks of these models. And as a result, organizations are moving with caution in this evolving AI and generative AI landscape. Some are embracing, some are providing guidelines. For example, don't input proprietary corporate info into these systems. Some are training their own models. Some have banned it outright to use ChatGPT or any similar model. So when you use, please seek guidance from your internal guidance from your organization, your legal guidance. Right, AI policy, laws, and governance. So there's a proposed European Union Act, AI Act. It is a risk-based approach to regulation. Basically, they have categorized the systems or defined at least 4 categories: unacceptable risk, for example, social scoring. Those systems will be prohibited. Systems which are high risk, system which are AI with specific transparency obligation and minimal or no risk. And for each class, they have different set of guidelines. On the right, you see life cycle of AI system and relevant obligation. For example, design in line with requirements. So make sure there's no bias with data. Make sure the training is in compliance. Even post-market monitoring, any incident you report it. So there's a lot of detailed info about the compliance. And then this is interesting research done by Stanford on whether today's models, they comply with this draft EU Act. And as you see, Bloom, they said it scored 36 out of 48. On the left, there are the requirements, for example, data sources, data governance, compute, energy, capability limitations. And then each model has been scored on a scale of 1 to 4. So Bloom is 36, but still, I think that also needs work to meet the compliance. And rest, I mean, a lot of these models, probably a lot of work is required. Okay, let's talk about, so we talked about past, we talked about the impact it currently has on businesses, startups, investing. Let's see the future trends. So this is research from PwC, which says different regions can gain different value from AI, generative AI, where North America is projected to gain $3.7 trillion in value. China is expected to gain even bigger value, which is about 7 trillion. And then, of course, different numbers for different parts of the world. So the value that can be gained, or efficiencies, through productivity, through increased incremental sales revenue is much higher, or at least a very significant number. And I believe generative AI wave that has started, it will continue at least next 5 years. That's what I believe. A lot of people have their different opinion. Some says LLM is just a passing fad. There'll be newer models, and certainly there can be newer models. But I think generative AI, I believe, will continue at least for some time for now. This is from Sequoia. So they have given a similar opinion, basically in different modalities. On the left, you have text, code, images, video, 3D gaming. Let's say text. So 2020 or pre-2020, models could just detect spam. They could do translation or basic Q&A. In 2020, 2022, now they are started to do longer form second drafts. 2023, they expect, or what is possible is vertical fine tuning. It gets good at scientific papers. 2025, final drafts get better than human drafts, and maybe 2030, final drafts better than professional writers. So that's the kind of trajectory or projections they are seeing in these modalities. Similarly for code, currently it is longer form better accuracy. By 2030, they expect text to product final better than full-time developers. So final versions. Images, currently art, logos, photographies, they're producing. By 2030, they are expecting final drafts better than professionals, artists, designers, photographers. And video 3D gaming, currently first attempt at 3D video models. I've seen some of them which can generate 3D scenes, but not at par. So by 2030, they expect video games and movies are personalized dreams. Again, this is, we saw this visual earlier, and in future trends, I expect this stretching in both directions. So model layer going deeper, maybe models, companies training. For example, we saw Bloomberg GPT. There was another one, FinGPT for financial. So companies training both in open source, even proprietary models, companies training those models for different modalities, different functions, industries. And then application layer, we are seeing a lot of startups coming up each week. So I think that will continue at least for some time in the future. Auto GPT, so that's another trend which I've seen. Auto GPT, and there's an article from TechCrunch, Auto GPT and why does it matter? So Auto GPT is basically breaking down any ChatGPT. You give a prompt and or one task, and it gives you the response. Auto GPT is you give it a task, it breaks down those tasks into a number of steps, and then spins sub-agents, could be different LLM models or ChatGPT, to in future to achieve those tasks. So that's another trend. Again, some people have different opinions. Some say it is just passing fad. Some say that could be the future. Impact of LLMs on society, as we saw in previous one of the visuals where it says by 2030 they expect these models to be much better, that they can produce final drafts of some of the across some of the modalities even better than professionals. So that's why I think Goldman Sachs is saying that 300 million jobs could be affected by latest wave of AI. And they are saying white collars are seen to be most at risk, though it is counterintuitive. As in one of the presentations I've seen earlier, it was predicted that AI would start with blue collar jobs first or robots first, but it's counterintuitive. It has started with creativity, say images. It is getting better on those. So a lot of impact could be on society, although I've seen counter arguments as well that AI will create a lot of startups as well. So yet to be seen how that balances out. And lastly, we could run out of data to train AI language programs. So that's one worry which some scientists have, and the solution. And in fact, a lot of data. So currently, a small percent of data is generated by the models. A lot of that is generated by humans. In future, if a lot of data is generated by AI programs, then we could eventually run out of data to program it. So the idea is, or the solution is to be more creative with the models, architectures, maybe have smaller models trained on high quality data. So you have to see how that will work out. I think that's the end of my presentation. So as I said, opinions are mine. Please follow your company guidance, your legal guidance, how you proceed in implementation of generative AI in your organizations. There are people on both ends. Some going totally for this wave. Some in favor of the ban. So I think you should follow your company guidance, but this is certainly a great opportunity for efficiency, for productivity, and some real value to be captured. And thank you, and I'm open to questions.
Hi, Nikesh. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. One thing I wanted to maybe take your opinion about, and there is two sides of the view, right? The carbon footprint, right? The generative AI that some of the presenters earlier also presented. For the GPT that we use for 1 minute, there is around 700K. That is the money is already going, but is also the power that is getting consumed. So I'm talking about the energy consumptions. I know it is not that thing for us to worry now, but as we are moving toward more sustainable future and all those things, and these type of generative AI that these new models that are coming, large language model, for that you need more processing power, you need more processes, and so energy is going to get more and more consumed, and at the end of the day it finally boils down to energy, right? And what are your thoughts on that? I know there is going to be technologies that is going to reduce the carbon footprint and all those things, but what is your thoughts in this? As we go more and more advanced, the energy will be more and more consumed, and there will be more and more carbon footprints as well. So what are your thoughts on that part?
Sure. Thank you, Mohammed. Great question. Yeah, I think you're right. I've seen the research. There's a lot of carbon footprint currently. It requires a lot of computation to train as well as inference. So I think, and I've seen other research where researchers have trained models which consume much less energy than existing models. So I think I would say a lot of researchers are working in that direction to reduce carbon footprint, to reduce energy consumption. And then on the other side, new technologies for energy, for example, still early phases, but a number of startups are working on that as well. Say, for example, fusion, which can bring down the cost a lot, and more energy will be available. So I think over time, I expect different solutions to address this problem.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are there any more questions?
Yes, actually, if I may ask Nikesh a question, in terms of the future of artificial intelligence, do you think in the end it would have ended up solving more problems than it create, or create more problems than it actually solves? Because I believe the answer to that question will really determine whether AI will be around for the long term.
Sure, that's a great question, Dale. It is a very complex question, and the answer is also very complex. So I think we've already seen AI solving some of the problems. For example, there was research about protein structures, even optimization problems recently, new algorithms or drug discovery. So AI is solving those problems, but at the same time, with cloning, with deep fakes, a lot of problems are increasing there as well. I mean, there are solutions you can. So say today, the images that we have is hard to trust those images. So there are solutions, for example, watermarking or using your keys for cryptography for both images and videos. But I think at this point, AI will create problems for sure. AI itself might not create problems, but bad actors using AI can create problems, and there's high possibility of that. There are talks about AI's risk to humanity. So that's another challenge besides the challenges we have discussed. I think it's very hard to say at this point where it goes. Probably for next few years, certainly opportunity for productivity, for creating the value. Medium long term, it can pose risks. How much it's hard to say at this point, I would say.
Thanks, great answer.
Any more questions? Well, I guess that's the end of questions for you, Nikesh. Thank you so much for presentation. It was really insightful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, great. Thank you for having me.